On Tech News Today, we'll tell you about a crazy new camera that has 16 lenses. Plus, a new app from a cool game company gamifies stress relief. And Adobe Photoshops unsightly tourists out of your photos so you don't have to. It's all coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, October 8th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace that connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/TNT to apply for a loan now. And by Gazelle, the online marketplace for buying and selling used gadgets. Shop from a variety of certified pre-owned electronics or trade one in for cash. Give a new life to a used device. Visit gazelle.com today. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. My name is Mike Elgan. Our co-anchor today is Fusion editor Kashmir Hill. Welcome to the show, Kashmir.
Thanks, Mike. Hope you can hear me.
I can hear you fine. Your video looks good. So let's talk about phubbing for a second. This is a word that I learned this week when I read the brand new book, Reclaiming Conversation by Sherry Turkell, I think is how you pronounce her name.
Turkell, I think.
Yeah, Turkell. I've always said Turkell. I've heard other people say Turkell. Somebody will correct me in the chat room, I'm sure. But in any event, phubbing is, according to the book, now this is what I want to talk to you about, is what is the actual definition of phubbing? The book said it's when people look at their phone while they're talking to you, but you linked on Twitter to an article that said that it's anytime you you're talking to somebody and you turn to your phone, you're phubbing them, and it's apparently a combination of phone snubbing. Is that correct?
Phone snubbing, right. This is, it's especially coming up in relationships where somebody is looking at their phone when they're supposed to be, having dinner with their partner or their spouse, and they're more engaged in the smartphone mobile world than they are in the real world.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Are you looking? I can't see you right now, but I'm guessing you're phubbing me.
Anyway, it's a great word. It's been around for probably 3 years, I think, and I don't know why I haven't heard it before. Probably because I was paying attention to my phone when somebody was telling me all about it. But it's a great word. Let's all use it.
I think it's a new word.
Yeah.
I think it just came into existence. I did a Google for it, and I did not see it before this week.
All right. Well, let's all use the word, but let's all not do it, because it's like really a bad thing to do. And, it's actually, and this is one more thing about phubbing, I've noticed that it's actually considered socially acceptable for people in their early 20s in a workplace. If you work with people who are very young, right out of school, you go to meetings and you're talking right at them, and it's like on the phone. And so it's quickly becoming an acceptable norm, and we must stop it. So. All right, well, let's jump into the news. We got a ton of really, really interesting news, starting with this story. A radical new camera called the L16 has 16 lenses, with each lens focusing light into its own individual sensor. It's from a startup called Light, and it ships this year. Wall Street Journal personal tech editor Wilson Rothman is here to tell us what the hell is going on. Welcome to the show, Wilson.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well,
we need to know. This is a crazy, crazy device, and what is going on here?
So there's three big problems with our smartphones. As much as we like to take pictures with them, they're not good in low light. They're not good at zooming in on things, and they are not good at creating that portrait-like depth of field effect that we see with our DSLR cameras. But of course, the big problem with those big DSLRs is that you can't fit them in your pocket. So what these guys did was, instead of creating a giant lens and a giant sensor and putting it all into a big package, they divided that job up into 16 different lenses and sensors and made it a much flatter, smaller package. I mean, it's still a good-sized point and shoot at this point, but it takes amazing pictures and it can fit in your pocket.
So they've really designed this thing to look like a smartphone. I mean, it seems like smartphones have taken a huge bite out of the camera industry because people just don't buy them anymore. Do you think it's likely that this would change the tide?
Well, I actually think the end game here for a company like Light is that they're going to want to sell this intellectual property. I mean, who wants to join the camera industry right now? I think these people are inventors, and I think that you know, if I was Samsung or Apple, I'd be eyeing this as, you know, as maybe a first step in an evolution towards making a what is it called, multi-aperture camera for a phone, because the principle is just, you know, how do you get something huge and shrink it down by, you know, crowdsourcing it, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is grabbing a lot of light, which of course is being converted into data, and each of these cameras is generating its own data, and it's put together into a single file. How big is that file?
So it's a 52 megapixel image.
Wow.
Which the cool thing about that is you take one shot. It's, you know, it kind of reminds me of some of those, like those, what do you call, medium frame cameras, you know, that the professional photographers use, because you take one picture and then you can crop in to like a thumbnail size, you know, part of that picture, and you get an extremely like clear, nice, detailed shot. So your zoom lens is kind of built into the image itself. You just crop in, and there it is. It's a little like the old Blade Runner, where they could like look into the mirror and zoom in and all that. I mean, that technology is actually arriving.
So what did you guys use when you were testing it around the Wall Street Journal offices? What were you taking photos of?
Well, there's the caveat, Kashmir. It's actually shipping next summer. What they did was they showed us and a few other, you know, news outlets. They showed an early prototype and the first images. This thing is such a new invention that it's only been shooting actual photos for about 6 weeks. And yeah, what they brought to us was the device, but it was a non-working unit, unfortunately. So we're not reviewing it yet. We're just telling the world it's there.
Okay, so that's a correction on what I said at the beginning, which I said it would ship this year. It will ship next year, just to be clear. Now,
right, they're saying summer 2016, but you know, with anything that's taking pre-orders a year in advance, those dates could easily slip.
Okay, so what do we know about Light as a company? Who are these guys?
Well, the CTO, he came from Qualcomm. His background is actually in chips and in this stuff. He's a camera enthusiast who decided that there was a problem you could solve with silicon. And it's important to remember that this camera is, Kashmir mentioned smartphones, it's got the guts of a smartphone. I mean, it has a Qualcomm Snapdragon chip, no coincidence there. And Foxconn is an investor, Foxconn, who of course makes iPhones as well. So what you've really got is a lot of smartphone DNA going into a product that will run the Android operating system. But when I talked to them, they said they're going to you know, kind of sandbox the system. They're not going to let everyone put any Android app on it, but they will let developers who want to invent, say, interior design app that you can take a picture of a room and suddenly you have all the measurements of everything in the room. Stuff like that, they will totally welcome and encourage and have a SDK for. So you know, it's a lot of different kinds of technologies coming together, and you know, that's where these guys come from.
And you mentioned Foxconn as an investor. If you want to really have an eye-opening experience, Google Foxconn for the various companies they're investing in. They're investing in everything. It's incredible. I've seen probably dozens of stories in the last month or two where Foxconn is throwing millions of dollars at this company, acquiring that company, buying the rights to that intellectual property. They're up to something. I don't know what they're doing, but it's going to be huge. Now,
well, it reminds me a little of the ODMs of the, you know, the 90s and 2000s becoming the PC makers, you know, the dominant PC makers, and kind of giving Dell and HP a run for their money. It's sort of like these ODMs are like, why do we need middlemen? You know, why aren't we the companies that people come to? So
yeah, Microsoft's saying that too now.
Yeah,
so clearly I need this. How much is this going to cost when this camera comes out next year?
So it's $12.99 pre-order up through, I think, early November. But if you order it, what they say is when it actually does go on sale, it'll be $16.99. So you're getting a $400 discount, if you will. Now, again, like these sort of pre-order things go, a lot of times you don't ever see that full price. They may say something, and the company never told me this, but I'm just speculating. Maybe they'll say, oh yeah, $12.99 is the price going forward. Who knows? Maybe it ends up costing more, and they have to raise the price. I mean, these, you know, when something ships a year out, I wonder a lot about how accurate the pricing is. What drew us to this, you know, we don't like to write too much about Kickstarter-y projects. What drew us to this was the real invention and you know, necessity being the mother of invention. It was really one of those moments where we were like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. It's a really interesting idea. Wilson Rothman is at WSJ.com and on Twitter at WJ Rothman. Wilson, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike.
We've got some more really cool news coming right up, but first I want to talk about Prosper. Prosper is one of our sponsors today, and the best way to get a loan. You may want to do something. You want to buy the camera we talked about earlier. You may want to remodel your bathroom. There's so many ways that you can take advantage of a great loan from Prosper. That's up to you. It's up to your imagination and whatever your goals and objectives are in life. But I'm here to tell you that that's the best way to borrow money. And of course, borrowing money is often a very, very good idea. Of course, you know, if you have high-rate credit cards that you've been sort of paying like these huge rates for, there's no need to do that. Just get a loan from Prosper, pay those off, and have a much, much lower rate with your Prosper loan. You can borrow up to $35,000 in as few as 5 days. And, you know, you can borrow money from just about anything you want. You can get a green loan. You can get a car loan. You can get a home loan. You can get all kinds of loans. And Prosper is the way to do it. Everything is up front and above board. That's what I love about Prosper. There's no hidden secret gotchas. There's no extra fee for paying off early. There's none of that hidden weirdness. It's just very straightforward. Everything is above board. And, of course, for investors, it's a great way to invest. For up to $35,000 in your account in as few as 5 days, go to prosper.com/TNT. And I want you to go to prosper.com/TNT, whether you're looking for a loan or not, and check this out. This is a really great service. It's an iconic Silicon Valley brand. They invented the category, and you should check it out just to see what's possible. And I think you may be inspired by going there. Dell and storage and IT giant EMC are reportedly in talks about a merger. Business Insider reporter Matt Weinberger joins us to talk about it. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Now, before we get into the news, can you outline what EMC does? And you know, the public knows EMC is a storage company, but what else do they do?
Oh man, do you have an hour? They do a lot of stuff. They, at the highest level, they basically make stuff to make data centers run better, faster, stronger, harder. They've traditionally won with big enterprises, mid-sized to big enterprises, selling the huge storage arrays, selling the data crunching apparatuses. They're really expensive, like a lot of legacy IT vendors, but for a long time, they were the only choice.
How big, relatively big, are these two companies? What would a merger look like?
So the merger would be, oh man, it's like you have one giant Lego set over here and one giant Lego set over here, and then you try to mash them together into one huge Lego set. It would be a proposed merger. EMC has a $52 billion market cap. Dell, we don't know how big Dell is because they went private in 2013, but they're big. And so a merger between the two would probably take a long time and be incredibly complicated and expensive. But they're hoping that they can get something out of it if these reports are true.
You know, these kinds of mergers tend to fail. I mean, you know,
Yes.
HP's acquisition of Compaq comes to mind.
Yes.
Why do they think this won't fail? I mean, it sounds to me like a terrible idea on its face, but what is their reasoning, do you think?
The reasoning, Dell and EMC have both fallen on really hard times. Like I said, EMC is very expensive, and for a long time, there were no reasonable alternatives. In the last few years, thanks to companies like Amazon with Amazon Web Services, Microsoft with Microsoft Azure, they're now viable alternatives, which has been really hurting EMC's bottom line. Similarly, Dell isn't selling as many PCs as it used to because we're all on iPhones these days. So they're kind of seeing it as kind of a chocolate and peanut butter kind of thing. Dell gets more enterprise data center services to help them with their weak spot, and EMC would get some breathing room because it's fallen on some really hard times lately with Dell's diversified business.
Yeah, plus now Microsoft is making laptops. So
That's right.
That doesn't help Dell's optimism about the future. Matt
That's
Weinberger's
exactly
Matt Weinberger's at businessinsider.com and on Twitter at M_Wein, W-E-I-N. Thanks for joining us today, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Amazon is pretty serious about being the everything store. The company is launching today a marketplace for handmade products called, you guessed it, Handmade, and they're directly competing against Etsy. Rachel Lerman is tech reporter for the Seattle Times and joins us to talk about it. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thanks, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. Now, how many sellers are on the store at launch, and what are they selling?
They have more than 5,000 already, which is pretty impressive considering we hadn't heard very many rumors about this. There were some whispers last spring, but they've amassed quite a bit of people. And they're selling everything. There's a ton of artwork. There's a lot of jewelry. There's a few kitchen items, but mostly what I'm seeing is lots of silver and gold, especially rings and some prints you can hang on the walls.
How does the number of sellers on Amazon's new marketplace compare to Etsy? Is Etsy doomed, do you think?
I think Etsy is going to have some problems with this, but mostly because Amazon has such a loyal following. Like, Amazon can amass as many sellers as it wants, pretty much, because these sellers know that Amazon has, millions of customers every year that come to Amazon for everything. They trust them, and if Amazon launches something new, they we as the customer kind of feel, well, it has the backing of Amazon. So if something screws up, Amazon will back it. Amazon will give me my money back. Amazon will blah, blah, blah. So I think Etsy is going to have some problems just with Amazon's loyal customer following.
Now, one advantage that Amazon has, of course, is everybody's credit card. That's for starters. Another one is that they have Amazon Prime, which has great shipping. I think people love the fact that they can get something, the next day. It works pretty well. It doesn't work as well as it used to, I think, at least in my experience. Are handmade products available for Amazon Prime shipping?
So some of them are available. If the sellers choose to be fulfilled by Amazon, they can actually ship their products to an Amazon warehouse, and then Amazon will ship them to you. Right now, I think it's something only like 600 or maybe 700 products are available for Prime, but I expect that to go up pretty dramatically because exactly the big thing, one of the biggest things that people love about Amazon is you don't have to wait more than 48 hours to get anything you want.
Rachel, do you know how Handmade is going to be integrated in the Amazon site? Is it going to be distinct? Is it going to be like one of the marketplaces, or will the products be all mixed in with everything else?
It's one of the marketplaces. You can search it just like you would search anything else. You can put Handmade into the search bar and look specifically at just that store, or you can search anything and the results will come up. It operates much like any of their other third-party marketplaces.
We should sell this show on Handmade because, of course, this is a handmade show put together by artisan craftsmen like Jason. Rachel,
I don't know if it's going to work. They're pretty strict about using no factories or manufactured products.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, we're probably overpaid and underworked by Amazon standards. Rachel Lerman is at seattletimes.com and on Twitter at Rachel Lerman. Thanks for joining us today, Rachel.
Thanks so much.
All right, bye-bye. Sony has acquired a Belgium-based company called Soft Kinetic Systems, which makes body sensing and image recognition technology. Dean Takahashi is the lead writer for GamesBeat at VentureBeat and joins us to tell us all about it. Welcome to the show, Dean.
Hello, Mike.
Now, can you tell us more about what Soft Kinetic does?
Yeah, Soft Kinetic measures through light beams the sort of 3D map of a room and figures out everything that's in it, including your body. So it bounces light off of objects and it measures how long it takes to get back to you, and then it calculates what's there. And so it's just like Microsoft's Kinect motion sensing camera.
So what do you think Sony's plan is for Soft Kinetic?
So, I think that, Sony never quite had as good technology as Microsoft did with Kinect. So this technology will help it get there. But it's also looking for ways to make virtual reality more fun and useful and playable. And so right now, Sony is doing this Project Morpheus PlayStation VR technology that they're going to launch next year. And, it doesn't work so well with just a plain old game controller. So I think what they're going to do is try to integrate Soft Kinetic into that and then allow you to, control things in virtual reality with your body movements and hand movements. And one thing that Soft Kinetic had, which was pretty interesting, was it could detect your finger movements. And so if you were, relatively close, a couple feet away or so, it could detect all 10 of your fingers moving in whatever direction you wanted. So that's pretty cool technology.
Yeah, it does sound very cool. Is this mostly an acqui-hire, or are they going after the technology and or patents?
I think both. I mean, Microsoft is armed with a lot of patents because it's made several acquisitions in this area. But Soft Kinetic was established back in 2007, so it's collected its own patents. And then on top of that, they have about 77 employees now, so it's a little more than acqui-hire, I think. They're making a relatively sizable acquisition, although they didn't disclose the purchase price here.
One thing I'm always really curious about with these kinds of technologies, which can, detect everything that's in a room in order to detect somebody's movement, is how they handle the privacy issues in terms of like what they see and what they gather. Do you know how Soft Kinetic has handled that before in terms of like what they store and what they discard of what they see when somebody's interacting with the system?
Well, I think one thing they're not doing is they're not showing exactly a camera image of what is in your room, right? And so they're not going to know what kind of clock you have on the wall and things like that. And so they're really after the movement data, and so that's the kind of data that they're storing. They may, like Microsoft, choose to use face recognition, to figure out who's standing in front of the PlayStation 4. And so they do have to handle some privacy issues related to that, just as Microsoft did as well. And basically, they're going to have to make some promises to customers about how they're going to use this data, before they're going to get consumer adoption, I think.
Well, it sounds pretty cool, and this sounds like a good area for Sony to try to compete in the world of motion detection, of virtual reality, console gaming and stuff. They're really good at that. There's some word on the street today that Sony's going to look next year at possibly getting out of the consumer handset market for smartphones. Just a rumor at this point. They have not succeeded in that market, although they really succeed in providing the cameras to everybody else for their high-end smartphones. So I think Sony's really going to have to cherry pick what businesses they're in, and I think this area of high-end gaming is a very good one for them. Mm-hmm. Dean Takahashi is at venturebeat.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at DeanTalk, T-A-K at the end. Dean,
yeah, and FYI, we're going to have our GamesBeat conference next week, and we're going to look at a lot of the issues related to VR gaming. So that's on Monday and Tuesday.
Great plug. Great plug. I love a great plug. Thanks, Dean. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Negative Nancy's have been calling for a Facebook dislike button for years, and now they're finally getting one, sort of. Facebook is testing emojis as replacements for the like button. They're called reactions, and there are 7 of them. Kerry Flynn is a tech reporter for the International Business Times and joins us with her reaction. How you doing, Kerry?
Hi, good. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. What are these 7 possible reactions?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, what was my reaction? I was pretty surprised how fast they executed on it. So Mark said at a Q&A, public town hall Q&A, that they had something like the dislike button in mind. And here we go. They're releasing it starting tomorrow. So we have, like you said, 7 different emojis that now people can choose from. So now you'll be able to hover over the like button and be able to select from these 7 different options. So great display there. You have the love, the haha. It's just these cute emoji faces that they think accurately express emotions. What you'll notice is that there's no dislike. There's a sad, but there's not like a, I don't approve of this post that you just put.
And so, this is really interesting because, of course, if, let's say, somebody posts something and says, oh, so-and-so died, what a great person, and you want to respond to that, a like button is not very nice. It's not very good. It's not what you want to do. And so, in this case, you can do the sad face. Yeah. So, no poop emoji? I mean, come on. That's the one. If I want to talk about Facebook itself, I'm going to need that poop emoji.
I mean, what's interesting here and why they've been so careful on this idea is not wanting to offend users. And back in December, Mark talked about, you can always comment. That was his excuse there. But obviously comments take more time. Vinjo at the New York Times pointed out today the fact that now Facebook's really pushing more mobile. It's, that also makes it, emojis have really taken off because they're really this mobile experience. So that's an interesting push. I think what's also interesting here is the business implications. So we really rely nowadays, you'll see that I'm going to see something on my newsfeed because it says that my friend liked it. So now if there's less liking and there's more these different reactions, is Facebook going to show me, hey, your friend was sad in response to this post and you should see it and be sad too? I think that's definitely going to change how it looks to the user. Then there's a big implication for brands as well, since Facebook did say that it is applicable to their posts. So how, in terms of how they're going to gauge that reaction, it's good they can see sentiment, but how does that mean they can no longer say, oh, we got X amount of likes on this post, and that helps them bump up in the algorithm as well. So the implications there will be interesting to see going forward.
Yeah, Kerry, how is this going to teach Facebook more about us? I mean, before they would see if we liked something or if we saw something and didn't react, but now having this whole range of emotional reactions, is Facebook just going to know us so much better?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I was just reading, Mark just posted a video and expressed that he's really interested in this early test of the feature. I didn't know before, this is only available in, I think it's Spain and Ireland to start. So they're being really cautious about, it actually couldn't be just a test, and we actually might not have access to the feature. They tested a sympathize button years ago too, and that actually never got fully rolled out. So maybe, like you're saying, maybe this won't do well. Maybe they'll realize that they aren't interested in gaining all these like different insights on users. I mean, obviously they could always use comments, and other companies really profit off of having, you know, sentiment scores where they analyze the text and are able to say, hey, this tweet, hey, this Facebook post really generated this negative or this positive reaction. So now that Facebook's releasing this new system, that I guess they could leverage that if they so choose going forward.
Back to the signals, it seems like they really need to know more about what is really happening. I mean, they have a feature called On This Day, for example, which shows you the past that people have been complaining. And as these things roll on, it's like, oh, here's your birthday. Here's your trip to Acapulco. Here's when you were diagnosed with leukemia. And, stuff like really negative things that people kind of go, oh, I didn't really want to remember that. I really didn't want that, see that again. And so now with this, they can look at the reactions that you get and know a lot more, not only about the reactions, but more importantly about the post itself. Was this a sad post? Was it a happy post? Did everybody like this post? Did everybody ignore it? So I think from a signaling point of view, this is really, really important. But the thumbs up and the like concept is very iconic for Facebook. It's their, it's part of their sort of branding and logo. Is it possible that they'll retain the like button and the thumbs up icon and just add these to it, or are we certain that they're going to replace that?
No, it is true. You'll see there are 7 options. Some people today have been saying there are 6, but you'll see the first button there is the traditional thumbs up. That's the like button. And the rest are those images. So there's 7 in total with the like button remaining, and then 6 additional. So yeah, and obviously they put the like button first for a reason. What you're gonna see on your smartphone when you open the Facebook app is the traditional like button, and you have to click on it and hover over it to have access to the other options. So that's kind of like another secret feature. Like not everyone may notice that at first. So depending, obviously, just tapping like, people are kind of lazy, tapping like and just choosing that option first, I think will still be the most important and the most gained in terms of attention.
It absolutely will. And of course, you can click like at Kerry's article on International Business Times. You can find her at ibtimes.com. You can follow Kerry at Kerry M. Flynn on Twitter. Kerry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate it, Mike. Have a good day.
You too. In courtroom drama news, we told you in February that Uber had been hacked and that up to $50,000 of its drivers' names and license numbers had been downloaded. Uber filed a lawsuit to identify the perpetrator, and a Reuters exclusive claims 2 sources that say that the hacker used a digital security key accidentally posted by Uber but downloaded via an IP address assigned to current Lyft CTO Chris Lambert. Note that the lawsuit does not directly accuse Lambert or Lyft of being involved in the hack. What do you make of this, Kashmir Hill? This is kind of weird.
Wow, that would be super corporate drama if that were true.
Yeah.
I mean, we just learned with the hack of Ashley Madison that the CTO of that company had actually discovered a vulnerability in a competitor and downloaded a bunch of information. So this stuff does happen.
It absolutely does. And of course, this sort of thing is the devil's in the details. Now, a few more details in this case. What happened was that they didn't actually post this key information. It was just, they made it passively available, and then there was a bunch of people who accessed it, and apparently they went through each and every person and said, well, it couldn't have been them, it couldn't have been them, it could have been this guy. So we're going to hear a lot more about this in the case if this, in fact, goes forward. So it's just very strange news in the world of tech, corporate espionage, potentially.
But one thing to keep in mind is that computer forensic work is so complicated, and connecting IP addresses to people can be hard. And then, as you say, may have looked at it, but then may not have actually done anything with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in news you can lose, now that Google is Alphabet, it makes sense that Alphabet buys the Alphabet domain. Sadly, alphabet.com is already taken by BMW. So Google has acquired another Alphabet domain, namely the Alphabet, followed by .com, as in ABCDEFGHIJK.com. It's a ridiculous name. And Kashmir, do you think they're actually going to use this as the corporate domain?
I doubt it. But it's good to have it locked down so that someone else doesn't use it.
Who else would use it? Well, very strange.
Who else?
Well, Adobe is working on a camera phone feature called Monument Mode, which erases tourists from your photos. Once in Monument Mode, you take several pictures, and whatever is moving in the shot is erased, and whatever stands still is retained. In this video, which was shot at Adobe's Max conference last night, an Adobe engineer lists the help of host Kim Chambers and Parks and Rec star Nick Offerman. Let's check this out.
We see a new live camera preview. You can also see the original camera feed in the corner of the screen.
I'm going to need a sandwich at some point.
They've got a camera on a tripod, and Nick Offerman and the host are walking around just making random movements. And what you see is you see the photo as it's being constructed, and you see little shadowy parts of blurry people going by, and it keeps taking pictures until all the people are gone, and you're left with just a clear shot. Now, clearly, this may require either an extremely steady hand or a tripod. There is software that will do this after the fact, where it will take multiple pictures and combine them to erase it. In fact, I think there was an app called Tourist Eraser. And of course, this should work with cars and stuff like that. But what's interesting about this is that it does it in real time. And Kashmir Hill, Adobe's pretty good at actually shipping features that they demonstrate on stage. So I think that it's likely this will appear for general use maybe next year.
But Mike, how do you take a selfie with it?
You can take a selfie and erase yourself, I guess. I don't know. It's I don't know if it can tell if you're a tourist, but yeah, no, this is, actually one way one thing you can do with this, actually, I'm pretty sure this would work. If you're in a busy, crowded area with tons of people walking around, you could actually go and stand there and hold very still, like those old-time photos from the 1850s, and just like stand there for a minute as everybody else moves, and it will look like you're on an empty street, theoretically.
Oh, I love that. You'd become part of the monument.
Exactly. That's right. Stand there like a statue. Well, we've got some more news coming right up after this word from Gazelle. Gazelle, of course, is the place to buy and sell used phones and tablets and so on. You want to use Gazelle simply because it makes financial sense. You can sell your device to them and then use that money to buy a new device from them. And, of course, the device you buy from them will be at a lower cost than buying a brand new device. It'll work if you get the kind of phone. They have two categories. One of them is just like a brand new phone, and it's indistinguishable. There's no way you could tell that this was not a brand new phone. And for an even better price, you can choose the other category, and you can, there'll be little gentle signs of wear, but of course everything will work flawlessly because they put it through a rigorous inspection to make sure that battery and everything functions perfectly. And of course, there's no risk at all. If you're concerned about buying a pre-owned phone, it's backed by a 30-day return policy, so you can use it for a month. And after a month, if you decide that it's not what you want, you send it back and they give you all your money back. Literally no risk at all. So give life to used electronics. Give life to used electronics. Trade in for cash or buy certified pre-owned devices. Visit gazelle.com today. A new app called Pause is designed to reduce stress and depression. It's from Us2, the same company that makes the game Monument Valley. Call it the gamification of living in the moment, or maybe a lava lamp for your mind. To use the app, you simply move a blob around on screen as smaller blobs are sucked into it and make your blob grow. And if you move too quickly, the whole thing evaporates. But if you keep at it, you're rewarded with sounds and animations and are guided into a meditation with your phone. You can choose from one of several levels of difficulty, with moving the slowest being the most difficult. Here comes a relaxing video.
Well-being and meditational practices into a beautiful and simple user experience. Throughout the process, we continuously tested pause by scanning brain activity, and it shows that pause calms the active mind and lowers the mental workload.
Pause invites you to put attention onto something actually happening in the here and now.
So there it is. I actually downloaded this. I even paid for it and tried it this morning, and it actually works. It actually like puts you in the moment. Now, this is the guy that is the creator of the technology, and he says it's based on Tai Chi. Tai Chi, of course, is a Taoist meditation martial art thing, but it's also based on the concept. I don't think he mentioned this in the video, but it's based on Taoist meditation principles. With Taoist meditation, one of the differences is you focus on something external to yourself, so a glass of water or something like that. And in this case, you're focusing on your phone. So it's a very strange concept, and again, it seems to actually relax you. So if you're like too stressed out, $2 might put you in the zone.
There are so many new, basically mindfulness technologies out there now. There's that very popular Headspace app. One of my reporters wore this mindfulness tracker on her bra that would tell her when she was getting stressed out and when she needed to, focus and be zen. And it's so interesting to me that, it's basically technology that has made us so stressed, and now we need more technology on top of it to chill us back out.
Yeah, it's and of course, the people who really love this are the people who sell technology. They love the fact that technology is the solution. And in fact, let's face it, technology usually is the solution to all our problems. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Joshua Chu in New York, who posted this picture on Google+. Joshua says he watches TNT during midnight feedings of his newborn baby girl, and that although the baby is cute, he gets very little tech news from watching her. There she is.
So sweet.
She is just really cute. But,
oh, man.
So she'll take care of
the one on the left is definitely cuter, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I can't compete with that. What can I do? But I have tech news. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT so we can find it. Kashmir Hill, do you recommend using Waze while driving around in Brazil? What do you think?
So there was this interesting story this week tragic story about a couple that was trying to get to the beach in Rio de Janeiro. And instead of putting the street, saying street in the, or they wrote street in the Waze address instead of avenue, and ended up in this slum where the car was shot at and the woman died. And all these news reports are kind of like blaming Waze for the death. And I think it's much more complicated than that. And it's also just this like blind trust in technology where you think your directions app is going to tell you where to go. And so you don't look around and see that maybe you're entering a dangerous neighborhood.
Okay, so that's really interesting because I saw the headlines, but I didn't read this story. I actually didn't know about this story because I assumed that it was just another one of those stories where people blindly, there have been cases when people have driven off of piers into the ocean or off cliffs or whatever. And it's a case where they're so focused on the app that they're not really paying attention and using their mind. But this is a different case. This is somebody who entered in the address. They made one minor, easy to make error and ended up in a bad neighborhood. So it wasn't really their fault, really. I mean, it was a simple mistake that shouldn't be fatal. And, who's to blame? Of course, violence in Brazil is to blame, lots of things to blame. I remember when MapQuest was the main way that people used mapping on a computer, and you basically, in those days, it was before everybody had smartphones, and you basically go to MapQuest, put in the address, and then you printed it out and carried the print out. It sounds incredibly primitive by what by today's standards. But what was stupid about MapQuest was that it oftentimes didn't know the address, but it didn't tell you it didn't know. It just sent you to the middle of the city. So if you put in an address with a zip code, it would just find the geographical center of that zip code, and you would just get the directions to go to that place. And it was just a random place, basically. And so this sounds like something similar to that. I guess what's really
the question I think it raises that, Waze warns you about police so that you don't get ticketed, so that you slow down. So a lot of people are asking, like, well, why doesn't Waze warn you when you're entering a dangerous neighborhood? That, of course, has been a controversial feature that apps have offered in the past because they're often seen as racist. But, if Waze was basically downloading crime data and it just said, hey, just like watch out, you're in a dangerous part of town, it does seem like that could be a good feature to add to the app.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Part of the problem is that Waze doesn't really work like that. Maybe it should. It's a social app, so all the data in there is from users. And if people never drive into these favelas, because they're so dangerous, then they will never have the opportunity to say, oh, I saw machine guns and I saw drug lords and I saw all this kind of stuff. Don't go there, because if they never go there, they won't indicate that. But yeah, there's got to be some way to flag problematic areas, although, even that could be problematic. I mean, that could be controversial. You could imagine people claiming that a neighborhood is a bad neighborhood, and the people who live there are saying, you're flagging our neighborhood? You're making it worse. Nobody's, so it's a real problem. And
so complicated.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, I think that it's not really Waze's fault. You could wander in a neighborhood like that through multiple means. The problem is that neighborhoods like that exist where simply driving in there is dangerous. So, Kashmir Hill, what else are you working on these days? You always have these interesting projects. Anything on the horizon?
Right now I'm interested in online vigilantes. So I've got a piece coming on that soon.
That's a really interesting, I was thinking about that this morning, about the new sort of social stigmatization that happens on Twitter and elsewhere on social media, where either rightly or wrongly, people are just attacked by this digital mob, and it's having multiple effects, good and bad. It's having a good effect in the sense that people aren't getting away with stuff. This sort of ostracizing people is kind of creating this mass, I guess, for lack of a better term, shame-based morality, where people are more careful about being jerks because they're afraid of being attacked by this mob. But on the other hand, there are people who really don't deserve the level of malice that's being thrown at them. I heard a case recently where there's somebody who's in a TV series and he plays a villain, and he gets so much hate on Twitter and other social media because of the things that his character did, that he can't even go on social media anymore. He's completely given it up and has asked his whole family to not go there because of all the horrible things people are saying about him. So it's really a weird problem that has emerged. I think it seems to have emerged in the last 2 or 3 years.
It really has. Yeah, it was interesting to see last week the rise of, I'm sure you talked about it on the show, but people, which basically wanted to institutionalize this, like have reviews of people the way that you have reviews of restaurants on Yelp.
Yeah, it's called People, P-E-E-P-L-E.
And people hated it. The internet just went after the creators and basically shamed the app, which hadn't yet launched yet, like out of existence. They took the website down. The women who had created it basically took their Facebook profiles to very, very private. And it seems like it might just completely disappear. And the power of the mob online is just really incredible.
Yeah, although that app itself was going to, likely to be used as a tool for stigmatizing people, and so that wasn't good either.
Or shaming.
Shaming people. You would basically, all you needed to demonstrate that you knew somebody in the initial version was to know their phone number, I believe. And some people have their phone numbers out there. That doesn't mean they should be targeted and sort of shamed by haters for whatever reason. So it's a weird problem, and I really don't know what the solution is for people, but it's getting pretty ugly out there. So anyway, I'll look forward to seeing what you write about all that. Kashmir Hill is at Cash Hill on Twitter. Kashmir, thank you so much for co-anchoring today.
See you next week, Mike. Sorry about the internet problems.
See you next week. Yeah, it's a pandemic around here. I don't know what's going on today. Take care. Let us know what's on your mind. Send an email to tnt@twit.tv, or you can call us at 260-TNT-SHOW. That's 260-868-7469. You can subscribe to Tech News Today on Spotify and hundreds of other locations. Just choose your favorite at twit.tv/TNT. And you can watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1700 UTC at twit.tv/live. We also want you to join our Google Plus community. Just search Google Plus in the communities area for Tech News Today. And you can follow me personally on Twitter at Mike Elgan. Also, don't miss our other news show, Tech News Tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific every single weeknight. And that is the Tech News Today. The show is produced by Jason Cleanthus and edited by Anthony Nielsen. My name's Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.